I gave my daughter a luxurious one-week trip to Europe with me. When I picked her up to go to the airport, she told me she decided to go with her jobless stepmom instead of me. My daughter smiled. Stepmom needed some rest, so we decided to take her. I didn't say anything. However, when they landed in Europe, I'll tell you everything. First, let me thank you for watching Granny's Voice. Please subscribe and tell us where you're watching from in the comments. We might give you a shout out in our next video. Today's special shout out goes to Sarah Lewis, from Lewisburg, North Carolina. Thank you for being part of our family. Now, let me tell you everything. The doorbell rang at exactly 5:30 a.m. I had been awake for hours, my suitcase packed and sitting by the front door like a faithful dog waiting for its walk. Today was the day. The Europe trip I had been dreaming about with my daughter Emma for 3 whole years. "Coming, sweetheart," I called out, practically dancing to the door. My heart was beating so fast I thought it might jump right out of my chest. But when I opened the door, my smile melted like ice cream in summer. There was Emma, yes, but standing next to her was Sandra, her stepmom. Sandra was holding a bright pink suitcase and wearing the biggest, fakest smile I had ever seen. "Hi, Mom," Emma said, not looking me in the eyes. She was staring at her shoes like they were the most interesting things in the world. "We need to talk." My stomach dropped like I was on a roller coaster. "What's wrong, honey? Is everything okay?" Emma fidgeted with her purse strap. "Well, you know how Sandra has been having a really hard time lately. She lost her job last month, and she's been so sad." I felt my chest getting tight. "Emma, what are you trying to tell me?" Sandra stepped forward, her voice sweet like candy that makes your teeth hurt. "Oh, Margaret, I hope you don't mind. Emma and I thought it would be so wonderful if I could come on this trip instead of you. I really need some time to relax and think about my future." The world felt like it was spinning around me. "Instead of me," I whispered. Emma finally looked at me, and I could see she felt bad, but not bad enough to change her mind. "Mom, you're so strong. You've been everywhere and done everything. Sandra has never been to Europe, and she's going through such a tough time right now." I stared at my daughter, my only daughter, the little girl I used to read bedtime stories to, the one I taught how to ride a bike, the one I worked 2 jobs to put through college. "Emma," I said slowly, trying to keep my voice steady, "I've been saving money for 3 years. I worked extra hours at the hospital. I gave up buying new clothes, eating out, even getting my hair done. This trip was supposed to be our special time together." Sandra made a little sad face. "Oh, Margaret, I'm sure you understand. Emma is such a caring girl. She just wants to help her family. And technically, I am family now." My hands started shaking. I had been planning every single detail of this trip. The beautiful hotel in Paris with the view of the Eiffel Tower. The pasta cooking class in Rome. The boat ride through the canals in Venice. All of it was supposed to be shared with Emma, my daughter. "Besides," Emma added quietly, "you can always go on another trip later. Sandra might not get another chance like this." I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. Another trip. Did she think money grew on trees in my backyard? I looked at Emma's face and saw her father in her features. The same way he used to make excuses when he wanted something. The same way he looked when he told me he was leaving me for Sandra 5 years ago. "So you want me to give up my trip, that I paid for with my money, so Sandra can go?" I asked, my voice getting a little louder. Emma's face turned red. "It's not like that, Mom. We just thought, since you're always so busy with work anyway. And Sandra really needs this." "Always so busy," I repeated. "I'm busy working to pay for things like this trip. I'm busy trying to make special memories with my daughter." Sandra put her hand on Emma's shoulder like she was protecting her. "Now, Margaret, let's not make this dramatic. Emma just wants to do something nice for me. Isn't that sweet?" Sweet. Sweet. There was nothing sweet about this. This felt like someone was stealing my birthday cake and asking me to say thank you. "How long have you two been planning this?" "Yes." Emma looked down again. "Just a few days. Sandra mentioned how much she'd love to see Europe, and I thought, maybe this was a sign." "Sign?" The only sign I saw was that my daughter cared more about making her stepmom happy than spending time with her own mother. I stood there in my doorway, still in my pajamas, watching my dream vacation walk away with someone else. I can't believe this, I said mostly to myself. I just can't believe this is happening. Emma stepped closer. Mom, please don't be mad. You know I love you. This is just... It's just one trip. One trip. One trip. This wasn't just any trip. This was 3 years of my life. 3 years of saying no to things I wanted. 3 years of dreaming about walking through Paris with my daughter, taking pictures together, laughing together. Emma, I said, trying one more time. This trip was supposed to be about us. About our relationship. About making memories together. Sandra smiled that fake smile again. Oh, but Emma and I will make wonderful memories. And we'll take lots of pictures to show you when we get back. Pictures. She wanted to show me pictures of my vacation. My phone buzzed with a text message. It was from the taxi driver. He was outside waiting to take us to the airport. The airport where I was supposed to get on a plane with my daughter. The taxi's here, I said quietly. Emma picked up Sandra's bright pink suitcase. Great. We don't want to miss our flight. Flight. No, my flight. Not the flight I had booked and paid for. Their flight. I watched them walk toward the taxi, chattering excitedly about all the things they were going to see and do. Things I had researched and planned for months. I stood in my doorway, still holding the door handle, as the taxi drove away with my daughter and Sandra. The street was quiet except for a bird singing somewhere. Such a happy sound for such a sad moment. My neighbor Mrs. Chen was getting her newspaper from her front yard. She waved at me. Going somewhere fun today, Margaret, she called out. I tried to smile. Not anymore, I called back. She walked over looking concerned. Is everything all right, dear? And that's when I started crying. Right there on my front porch in my pajamas, with my packed suitcase still sitting by the door like a faithful dog that would never get its walk. Mrs. Chen put her arm around me. Come on, let's get you inside and make some tea. As we walked into my house, I saw all my travel guides spread out on the coffee table. Paris in 7 days. Rome for beginners. Venice, a love story. Each book had little sticky notes marking all the places I wanted to show Emma. What happened, honey? Mrs. Chen asked gently. I told her everything. About the 3 years of saving. About working extra shifts at the hospital. About how excited I had been to share this adventure with Emma. About how Sandra swooped in at the last minute and took my place. Mrs. Chen shook her head. That girl has forgotten who raised her. I don't know what to do, I admitted, wiping my eyes with a tissue. I feel so stupid. Like I've been played for a fool. Mrs. Chen patted my hand. You're not stupid, Margaret. You're a loving mother who got her heart broken. I looked at my suitcase again. Inside were all the clothes I had picked out so carefully. The comfortable walking shoes for all the cobblestone streets. The nice dress for fancy dinners. The camera to take pictures of Emma smiling in front of famous landmarks. 3 years, Mrs. Chen. 3 years I saved for this trip. What are you going to do now? She asked. That was the question, wasn't it? What was I going to do? Sit here feeling sorry for myself. Wait for Emma to come back and tell me all about the wonderful time she had with Sandra. I don't know, I said honestly. Part of me wants to call the hotel and cancel everything. But part of me thinks, maybe I should do something else. Mrs. Chen raised an eyebrow. What kind of something else? A little spark of an idea started growing in my mind. Tiny, angry little spark. I paid for that trip, I said slowly. I booked every hotel, every tour, every fancy dinner. And they just took it. That's right, Mrs. Chen agreed. They did. The spark grew bigger. So why should they get to enjoy all my hard work for free? I stood up and walked to my computer. Mrs. Chen followed me, curious about what I was planning. What are you doing? She asked. I'm taking back control, I said, opening my laptop. My fingers flew across the keyboard as I logged into my travel accounts. Hotel reservations, tour bookings, restaurant reservations. Everything I had spent months planning and organizing. Margaret, Mrs. Chen said carefully, what exactly are you doing? I'm canceling everything, I said, clicking button after button. If they want to go on a trip to Europe, they can plan their own trip with their own money. Cancel, cancel, cancel. Each click felt like taking back a little piece of my dignity. The fancy hotel in Paris with the Eiffel Tower view. Cancelled. The private cooking class in Rome. Cancelled. The gondola ride in Venice. Cancelled. The expensive dinner reservations at all those romantic restaurants. Cancelled, cancelled, cancelled. Are you sure about this? Mrs. Chen asked. Paused for a moment. Was I sure? Was this the right thing to do? Then I remembered Sandra's fake smile. I remembered Emma saying I could always go on another trip later. I remembered how they had planned this behind my back for days without telling me. I'm absolutely sure, I said and kept clicking. By the time I was finished, every single reservation was cancelled. Emma and Sandra were going to land in Paris and find out they had nowhere to stay, nothing to do, and nowhere to eat. They'll call you, Mrs. Chen warned. They'll be very upset. Good, I said, closing the laptop with a satisfying snap. Maybe they should have thought about that before they decided to steal my vacation. Mrs. Chen smiled. You know what? I'm proud of you, Margaret. You stood up for yourself. Felt different, lighter somehow. For the first time in hours, I wasn't thinking about Emma and Sandra. I was thinking about me. You know what else? I said, getting an even bigger idea. I'm not going to sit here feeling sorry for myself. What do you mean? I walked over to my suitcase. My poor, patient, faithful suitcase that had been waiting by the door all morning. I mean, I said, picking it up. Just because Emma doesn't want to go to Europe with me doesn't mean I can't go to Europe by myself. Mrs. Chen's eyes got wide. By yourself? Why not? I'm a grown woman. I've been taking care of myself and everyone else for years. I think it's time I did something just for me. The idea was scary and exciting at the same time. I had never traveled alone before. But looking at that suitcase, I realized something important. I didn't need Emma to have an adventure. I didn't need anyone's permission to be happy. But what about work? Mrs. Chen asked. What about all your responsibilities? I took a week off for this trip, I said. I arranged for other nurses to cover my shifts. I paid my bills ahead of time. I even asked my neighbor to water my plants. I laughed. Everything is already set up for me to be gone. Mrs. Chen started smiling too. So you could just go? I could just go, I repeated, and the words felt amazing in my mouth. I opened my laptop again, but this time I wasn't canceling anything. This time I was booking something new. What are you looking for? Mrs. Chen asked, leaning over my shoulder. A different trip, I said, scrolling through websites. Something Emma and Sandra won't be able to ruin. I found it within minutes. A small, cozy bed and breakfast in the countryside of Ireland. Green hills, sheep, friendly people, and absolutely no connection to the fancy European trip I had planned for Emma. Ireland, Mrs. Chen said. That sounds wonderful, doesn't it? I said, already falling in love with the pictures on the screen. Look at those gardens. Look at those little cottages. I booked it right then and there. 5 days in Ireland, staying at a place called Rosemary's Rest, where the website promised home-cooked meals and the friendliest sheep you'll ever meet. It was completely different from the sophisticated city tour I had planned with Emma. It was quiet and peaceful and exactly what my heart needed. When do you leave? Mrs. Chen asked. I looked at the flight times. There's a plane to Dublin in 4 hours. If I hurry, I can make it. 4 hours. My heart started racing again, but this time it was good racing. Excited racing. 4 hours. Mrs. Chen looked worried. Margaret, are you sure about this? It's so sudden. Mrs. Chen, I said, standing up and looking her right in the eyes. For 3 years I planned every detail of a trip for my daughter. I researched, I saved, I organized, I dreamed. And she threw it all away for Sandra. I walked to the window and looked out at the street where the taxi had taken them away. I'm 52 years old. I've spent my whole adult life taking care of other people. I raised Emma by myself after her father left. I worked double shifts to pay for her college. I saved every penny for 3 years to give her this amazing gift. My voice got stronger with every word. And you know what? I deserve that trip. Maybe not the exact same trip, but I deserve to go somewhere beautiful and have an adventure. Mrs. Chen nodded slowly. You're absolutely right. So yes, I'm sure. Emma made her choice. Now I'm making mine. I grabbed my suitcase and headed for the door. Will you water my plants while I'm gone? Mrs. Chen laughed. Of course. Have the most wonderful time, Margaret. You deserve every minute of it. The rush to get to the airport was like something out of a movie. I changed clothes, grabbed my passport, and called a taxi, all within 30 minutes. As we drove to the airport, I felt butterflies in my stomach. Not the sad, sick butterflies I had felt when Emma left with Sandra. These were excited butterflies. Adventure butterflies. My phone started ringing just as we pulled up to the airport. That Emma's name flashed on the screen. They must have landed in Paris by now. They must have found out about the cancelled reservations. I looked at the phone ringing in my hand. 6 months ago. No, 6 hours ago. I would have answered immediately. I would have apologized and tried to fix everything, even though I wasn't the one who caused the problem. But sitting in that taxi, with my suitcase beside me and a ticket to Ireland in my purse, I made a different choice. I turned off the phone. Everything all right, miss? The taxi driver asked. Everything is perfect, I said, and I meant it. Walking through the airport felt like walking into a completely new life. People were rushing around with their suitcases, heading to exciting places. Families were hugging goodbye. Couples were holding hands and looking at departure boards. And there I was, Margaret Thompson, 52-year-old nurse from Ohio, about to get on a plane to Ireland all by myself. The flight to Dublin was the most peaceful 5 hours I had experienced in years. No one needed me to fix anything. No one needed me to worry about them. I just sat in my window seat, watched the clouds go by, and read a book about Irish gardens. The lady sitting next to me was probably in her 70s, with silver hair and kind eyes. First time to Ireland, she asked. First time anywhere by myself, I admitted. She smiled. Oh, how wonderful. Solo travel is the best gift you can give yourself. You get to do exactly what you want, when you want, without having to ask anyone else. I'm a little nervous, I confessed. I usually travel with my daughter, but she had other plans this time. The lady patted my arm gently. Sometimes the best adventures happen when our original plans fall apart. I've been traveling alone for 20 years, ever since my husband passed. Some of my most amazing memories are from trips I took all by myself. Her words made me feel braver. Maybe this wasn't a disaster. Maybe this was exactly what I needed. What's your favorite thing about traveling alone? Yes. You get to surprise yourself, she said with a twinkle in her eye. You discover what you really like, not what other people think you should like. You might find out you're braver than you thought. As the plane started descending toward Dublin, I looked out the window at the green fields below and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Excitement about the unknown. Landing in Dublin felt like landing on another planet. Everything was green and misty and magical. The people at the airport had the most wonderful accents, and everyone seemed genuinely happy to welcome visitors. I took a bus from Dublin to the small town where Rosemary's Rest was located. The countryside was even more beautiful than the pictures on the website. Rolling green hills, stone walls, sheep dotting the landscape like fluffy white clouds that had fallen from the sky. When we pulled up to the bed and breakfast, I gasped out loud. It looked like something from a fairy tale. A small stone cottage covered in climbing roses, with a garden full of flowers I couldn't even name. A woman about my age came out to greet me. She had curly red hair and the biggest smile. You must be Margaret, she said in a lovely Irish accent. I'm Rosemary. Welcome to my little piece of heaven. It's beautiful, I said, and my voice came out all choked up. Rosemary looked at me carefully. Are you all right, love? And that's when I started crying again. But these weren't sad tears like this morning. These were relief tears. Happy tears. Grateful tears. I'm sorry, I said, wiping my eyes. It's been a very long day. Come inside, Rosemary said, putting her arm around me just like Mrs. Chen had done. Let's get you settled with a cup of tea and you can tell me all about it. Rosemary's kitchen was exactly what you'd imagine an Irish grandmother's kitchen would look like. Warm and cozy, with copper pots hanging from the ceiling and the smell of fresh bread in the air. Now then, Rosemary said, setting down a cup of tea and a plate of homemade cookies. What brings you to Ireland all by yourself? I found myself telling her the whole story. About Emma, about Sandra, about the cancelled trip, about making the sudden decision to come to Ireland instead. Rosemary listened without interrupting, nodding and making sympathetic sounds at all the right moments. Well, she said when I finished, it sounds to me like your daughter made a terrible mistake, but you made a wonderful choice. Do you think so? Yes. I keep wondering if I overreacted. If I should have just let them have the trip and stayed home. Absolutely not, Rosemary said firmly. Margaret, you are a grown woman who deserves to have adventures and make memories. You don't need anyone's permission to be happy. She refilled my teacup. And between you and me, some of the best guests I've ever had were women who came here after someone disappointed them. They always leave feeling stronger and more confident. Really, there's something magical about Ireland. It helps people remember who they really are, underneath all the roles they play for other people. I looked out the kitchen window at the green hills. I've been Emma's mom for so long, I'm not sure I remember who Margaret is. Rosemary smiled. Well then, that's what we're here to find out, isn't it? That first evening in Ireland, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went for a walk just because I wanted to. Not because I needed exercise, not because I had errands to run, but just because the countryside looked so beautiful and peaceful. I walked down a small lane bordered by stone walls covered in ivy. Sheep looked up at me curiously from their fields, and somewhere in the distance I could hear traditional Irish music coming from what Rosemary had told me was the village pub. My phone had been buzzing all day with calls and text messages, but I had left it back at the bed and breakfast. For the first time in I couldn't remember how long, no one knew exactly where I was or what I was doing. Felt incredible. I sat down on an old stone wall and watched the sun set over the hills. The sky turned pink and orange and purple, like someone had spilled watercolors across it. Beautiful, isn't it? Came a voice behind me. I turned around to see an elderly man walking a small brown dog. He had a friendly face and was wearing a cap that looked like it had seen many years of Irish weather. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, I said honestly. First time in Ireland? He asked, and when I nodded he smiled. Ah, you picked a grand place to visit. I'm Seamus, and this little fellow is Murphy. Murphy wagged his tail at me like we were old friends. I'm Margaret, I said. I'm staying at Rosemary's Rest. Ah, Rosemary's a treasure. You're in good hands there. He sat down on the wall beside me. What brings you to our little corner of the world? I found myself telling Seamus the story too. There was something about Ireland, or maybe something about being so far from home, that made it easy to talk to strangers like they were old friends. Well now, Seamus said when I finished, sounds to me like your daughter needs to learn some gratitude. But more importantly, sounds like you needed this adventure. I've never traveled alone before, I admitted. I'm not sure I know how to do it. Seamus laughed, a warm sound that mixed with the evening breeze. Margaret, you've been taking care of everyone else for years. If you can do that, you can certainly take care of yourself on vacation. Murphy came over and put his head on my knee like he was trying to comfort me. The secret to solo travel, Seamus continued, is remembering that you don't have to make anyone else happy. You just have to make you happy. I'm not sure I remember what makes me happy, I said, scratching Murphy's ears. Well then, that's your adventure right there. You've got a whole week to find out. As we sat there watching the last of the sunset fade into twilight, I felt something shift inside me. Maybe Seamus was right. Maybe this wasn't about the trip Emma had taken from me. Maybe this was about the trip I was giving to myself. Thank you, I said to Seamus. For what? For reminding me that I'm allowed to make myself happy. He smiled. That's what neighbors are for, Margaret. Even temporary neighbors. The next morning, I woke up in the most comfortable bed I had ever slept in. Sunlight was streaming through lace curtains, and I could hear birds singing outside my window. For the first few seconds I forgot where I was. Then I remembered. I was in Ireland. I was on an adventure. I was doing something just for me. I got dressed and went downstairs to find Rosemary in the kitchen, making what smelled like the most amazing breakfast in the world. Good morning, sunshine, she said cheerfully. How did you sleep? Like a baby, I said honestly. I can't remember the last time I slept so well. That's the Irish air, Rosemary said with a wink. It's magical for healing broken hearts and tired souls. She set a plate in front of me with eggs, bacon, sausage, black pudding, grilled tomatoes, and something she called white pudding that I had never heard of but smelled delicious. This looks incredible, I said, but it's enough food for 3 people. You're on vacation, Rosemary said firmly. You eat what makes you happy and don't worry about anything else. As I ate that amazing breakfast, I realized something. I couldn't remember the last time I had eaten a meal without worrying about something. Usually I was thinking about work, or Emma's problems, or bills, or my endless to-do list. But sitting in that sunny kitchen in Ireland, all I was thinking about was how good the food tasted and how peaceful I felt. What would you like to do today? Rosemary asked. I don't know, I said, and then I started laughing. I literally have no idea what I want to do today. Isn't that terrible? I'm 52 years old and I don't know what I like. Rosemary laughed too. It's not terrible, it's wonderful. It means you get to discover yourself all over again. She sat down across from me with her own cup of tea. Let me ask you this. When you were a little girl, before you had to worry about jobs and bills and taking care of everyone else, what did you love to do? I thought for a moment. I loved flowers, I said slowly. I used to spend hours in my grandmother's garden, learning the names of all the different plants. Well then, Rosemary's eyes lit up. I have the perfect day for you. She told me about a famous garden about an hour away, where they had flowers from all over the world. It's called Powiscourt Gardens, she said, and it's like stepping into a fairy tale. That sounds perfect, I said, and I meant it. I'll pack you a picnic lunch, Rosemary offered. You can spend the whole day there if you want. No schedule, no rush, just you and the flowers. As I got ready for my day at the gardens, my phone buzzed with another call from Emma. I looked at it for a long moment, then put it back in my purse without answering. Today was about flowers and peace and discovering what made Margaret happy. Emma's drama could wait. The bus ride to Powiscourt Gardens was like riding through a painting. Green fields, old castles, stone churches, sheep everywhere. It was more beautiful than any postcard I had ever seen. When I arrived at the gardens, I felt like I had stepped into heaven. Terraced gardens stretched as far as I could see, with flowers of every color imaginable. There were roses and lavender and something called Irish bells, that made tiny chiming sounds when the wind blew through them. I spent hours walking through those gardens. I sat by a fountain and ate Rosemary's picnic lunch. I took pictures of flowers I had never seen before. I talked to an old gardener who told me the history of every plant. And for the first time in I couldn't remember how long, I wasn't thinking about anyone else's needs or problems. I was just happy. Around 4 o'clock, I found a bench in the rose garden and decided to finally check my phone. There were 12 missed calls from Emma and 6 text messages. The messages started out angry. Mom, what did you do? We can't get into the hotel. Then they got desperate. Please call us back. We don't know what to do. And finally they got mean. This is so petty, Mom. We're stuck in Paris with nowhere to stay because of you. I read all the messages and you know what I felt. Nothing. Well, not nothing exactly. Felt free. I typed back one simple message. I'm in Ireland having a wonderful time. You made your choice, now I made mine. Have a nice trip. Then I turned my phone off and went back to looking at the roses. That evening back at Rosemary's, I told her about my day over another incredible dinner. You look different, she said, studying my face. Lighter somehow. I feel different, I admitted. I keep waiting for the guilt to kick in, but it's just not coming. Why should you feel guilty? Rosemary asked. For taking care of yourself? For refusing to be treated badly? Emma is my daughter, I said. I'm supposed to always put her first. Margaret, Rosemary said gently. Emma is 25 years old. She's a grown woman. You've spent 25 years putting her first. Don't you think it's time to put yourself first for just 1 week? When she put it that way, it sounded so reasonable. Besides, Rosemary continued, the best thing you can do for Emma is show her that women don't have to be doormats. You're teaching her that actions have consequences. That night, I wrote in the little journal I had bought at the garden gift shop. I wrote about the flowers, about the peaceful feeling of walking alone, about discovering that I actually liked my own company. I also wrote, today I remembered that I am more than just someone's mother. I am Margaret, and Margaret deserves beautiful things too. The next few days in Ireland were like living in a dream. I took a pottery class and made a little bowl that was completely lopsided but perfectly mine. I went to a traditional Irish music session at the village pub and learned to clap along to songs I had never heard before. I took long walks in the countryside and had conversations with sheep. They were excellent listeners. I visited ancient stone circles that were older than anything I had ever seen in America. Most importantly, I started remembering who Margaret was when she wasn't busy being Emma's mom, or the responsible one, or the person who fixes everything. Margaret, it turned out, loved quiet mornings with tea and birds singing. Margaret enjoyed talking to strangers and hearing their stories. Margaret was braver than she had given herself credit for. On my 4th day, while I was sketching flowers in my journal at a small cafe, my phone rang. This time it wasn't Emma. It was my ex-husband, David. Margaret, he said when I answered. We need to talk. About what? I asked, though I already knew. About what you did to Emma and Sandra in Paris. That was completely out of line. I set down my pencil and looked out at the Irish countryside. You know what was out of line, David? Your daughter stealing my vacation and expecting me to pay for it. She didn't steal anything, he said defensively. She was being kind to Sandra. At my expense, I replied calmly. With my money. On my trip. You're being selfish, David continued. Emma was just trying to help her stepmom, and you sabotaged their whole trip. I almost laughed. David, do you know how much money I saved for that trip? Do you know how many extra shifts I worked at the hospital? Do you know how many things I didn't buy for myself so I could give Emma this amazing experience? That's what parents do, he said. Yes, I agreed. It is what parents do. But it's not what parents should have to do when their adult children decide to give away their gifts to other people. I could hear him getting frustrated. Margaret, you're 52 years old. You shouldn't be acting like a spoiled child. You're right, I said, surprising him. I shouldn't be acting like a spoiled child. But I also shouldn't be acting like a doormat. There's a difference between being generous and being taken advantage of. So what are you going to do? He asked. Stay mad at Emma forever. I looked around the cafe at all the happy people enjoying their afternoon tea, at the flowers blooming in window boxes, at the peaceful life I had discovered here in Ireland. I'm not mad anymore, David, I said honestly. I'm disappointed. And I'm done being the person who always gives up what she wants so other people can be happy. What does that mean? David asked. It means Emma needs to learn that her choices have consequences. And I need to learn that my happiness matters too. I hung up before he could argue with me anymore. That afternoon, I did something I had never done before in my entire life. I went shopping for myself. Not practical shopping for things I needed, but fun shopping for things I wanted. I bought a beautiful Irish wool sweater that was the exact color of the morning sky. I bought a little ceramic shamrock that would remind me of this trip forever. I bought a book of Irish poetry and a CD of traditional Irish music. Most importantly, I bought myself a ring. A simple silver ring with a small green stone that the shopkeeper told me was genuine Irish Connemara marble. "It's beautiful," I said, trying it on. "It suits you," the shopkeeper said. "That stone is millions of years old. Seen everything and survived everything. Just like strong women do." I wore the ring out of the shop, and every time I looked at it, I remembered that I was strong enough to take care of myself. That evening at dinner, Rosemary noticed the ring right away. "That's lovely," she said. "What's the occasion?" "I'm celebrating," I said. "Celebrating what?" Thought for a moment. "Celebrating the fact that I'm not angry anymore. I'm not sad anymore. I'm just proud of myself." Rosemary raised her teacup. "To Margaret," she said, "who remembered that she deserves beautiful things." "To Margaret," I agreed, clinking my cup against hers. On my last day in Ireland, I woke up feeling both sad and grateful. Sad to leave this magical place, but grateful for everything I had discovered about myself. I packed my suitcase, the same faithful suitcase that had waited by my door just 1 week ago, but now it was full of treasures and memories instead of broken dreams. Rosemary made me a special farewell breakfast with fresh scones and homemade jam. "You look like a completely different person than the one who arrived here crying," she observed. "I feel like a different person," I said. "I feel like myself again." "What are you going to do when you get home?" she asked. It was a good question. What was I going to do? I couldn't stay in Ireland forever, as much as I wanted to. "I think," I said slowly, "I'm going to keep putting myself first. Not in a selfish way, but in a healthy way." Rosemary nodded approvingly. "And what about Emma?" I had been thinking about that a lot over the past few days. Emma is going to have to learn that relationships work both ways. She can't just take and expect me to always give and give. "That sounds very wise," Rosemary said. As I hugged goodbye to Rosemary and Seamus and even little Murphy, I felt like I was leaving family behind. But I also felt like I was taking a piece of Ireland with me in my heart. The flight home gave me time to think about everything that had happened. A week ago, I had been devastated about losing my dream trip with Emma. Now I realized that losing that trip had been the best thing that could have happened to me. I had discovered that I was good company for myself. I had remembered what I liked and what made me happy. I had learned that I could be brave and adventurous and independent. Most importantly, I had learned that I didn't need anyone else's permission to live a full and joyful life. When I landed back in Ohio, Mrs. Chen was waiting for me at the airport with a big smile and a welcome home sign. "Margaret," she exclaimed as I came through the gate. "You look wonderful. You're practically glowing." "I feel wonderful," I said honestly. Ireland was exactly what I needed. On the drive home, I told her all about my adventures. About Rosemary and Seamus and the beautiful gardens. About the pottery class and the traditional music and the long peaceful walks. "And Emma?" Mrs. Chen asked carefully. "Have you heard from her?" "She's called and texted," I said. "But I haven't been ready to talk yet." "Are you ready now?" I looked out the car window at my familiar neighborhood. The same houses and streets I had left a week ago, but somehow everything looked different now. Brighter somehow. "I think so," I said. "But it's going to be a very different conversation than the ones we used to have." When I got home, my house felt smaller than I remembered. But it also felt more like mine. I unpacked my Irish treasures and placed them around the house where I could see them and remember my adventure. The Irish wool sweater went in my closet where I could wear it whenever I wanted to feel brave. The little shamrock went on my kitchen windowsill where it would catch the morning light. The book of poetry went on my nightstand for peaceful bedtime reading. And the ring, my beautiful Irish ring, stayed on my finger as a daily reminder that I was worth celebrating. I had been home for exactly 2 hours when Emma called. This time I answered. "Mom." Her voice was small and uncertain, nothing like the confident tone she had used when she told me about taking Sandra on my trip. "Hello, Emma," I said calmly. "Mom, we need to talk. About what happened in Paris. About everything." "Yes," I agreed. "We do need to talk." There was a long pause. Then Emma said, "Can I come over?" I looked around my house. My peaceful, quiet house where I had just spent 2 hours remembering how good it felt to be in my own space without anyone needing anything from me. "Tomorrow," I said. "Come over tomorrow afternoon. We'll have tea and we'll talk." "Okay," Emma said quietly. "Mom. I'm sorry. We'll talk tomorrow, Emma," I repeated gently and hung up. That night, I called my sister Janet to tell her about my trip. Janet lived in California and we didn't talk as often as we should, but she had always been my biggest supporter. "You went to Ireland," she practically shouted when I told her the story. "By yourself. Margaret, that's amazing." "It was amazing," I agreed. "I can't believe I almost didn't go." "I'm so proud of you," Janet said. "For years I've watched Emma walk all over you, and I've wanted to say something, but I didn't want to interfere. She's been taking advantage of me," I admitted. "And I've been letting her." "Well, it sounds like those days are over," Janet said approvingly. "What are you going to say to her tomorrow?" I had been thinking about that all evening. "I'm going to tell her that I love her, but that our relationship needs to change. I'm going to tell her that I'm not her personal ATM or her backup plan anymore." "Good for you," Janet said. "And Margaret, if you ever want to take another solo trip, I know some great places in California." After I hung up with Janet, I made myself a cup of tea and sat in my favorite chair with my new book of Irish poetry. Outside my window it was starting to rain. Not the dramatic, angry kind of rain, but the gentle, peaceful kind that makes everything feel clean and new. I opened the book to a random page and found a poem that made me smile. "She who was lost has found herself again, in quiet moments and in foreign places, where no one knew her name or all her pain. She learned to love her own reflection's graces." Perfect. The next afternoon, Emma arrived at exactly 2 o'clock. She looked nervous and tired, and for a moment I felt that old familiar urge to comfort her and fix whatever was wrong. But then I remembered Ireland. I remembered Rosemary telling me that I didn't need anyone's permission to be happy. I remembered Seamus saying that I had been taking care of everyone else for years and now it was time to take care of myself. I made tea and set out some cookies, and we sat in my living room like two adults about to have a difficult conversation. "Mom," Emma began, "I owe you a huge apology." "Yes," I said simply, "you do." She looked surprised by my directness. The old Margaret would have said, "Oh honey, it's okay," or "let's just forget about it." "The trip to Paris was awful," she continued. "When we got there and found out you had cancelled everything, Sandra had a complete meltdown. She blamed me for the whole thing. We ended up staying in a terrible hotel and eating nothing but McDonald's for 4 days." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, and I meant it. I didn't want Emma to suffer. But I also wasn't going to fix it for her. "Why didn't you answer your phone?" she asked. "We were stranded, Mom." "You weren't stranded, Emma. You were in Paris, one of the most beautiful cities in the world, with your credit cards and your passports and your ability to figure things out like the adult you are." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "But we needed your help." I reached over and took her hand. "Emma, I love you more than life itself. But I am not responsible for cleaning up the mess you made when you decided to give away my vacation." "I thought you'd understand," she said quietly. "Sandra was so sad." "And what about me?" I asked gently. "Was I not sad when you told me I couldn't come on the trip I had planned and saved for?" Emma was quiet for a long moment. Finally she whispered, "I never thought about it that way." "I know you didn't," I said. "And that's the problem we need to fix." We talked for 2 hours. I told her about Ireland, about discovering who I was when I wasn't busy taking care of everyone else. I told her that I loved her, but that our relationship needed to become more balanced. I'm not going to stop being your mother, I explained, but I am going to start being Margaret too. And Margaret has her own dreams and needs and boundaries. When Emma left that evening, she hugged me tighter than she had in years. I'm proud of you, Mom, she said. And I'm sorry it took me so long to see how amazing you are. As I watched her drive away, I touched my Irish ring and smiled. The old Margaret would have spent the evening worrying about whether Emma was really okay, whether she was angry, whether their relationship would recover. But the new Margaret, the one who had walked through Irish gardens and talked to sheep and learned to put herself first, just felt peaceful. I had found myself again, and no one could ever take that away from me. The end. Thanks for watching. Granny's Voice. Please subscribe.